The Super Rugby Round 2 lineups are now out after the closest ever round we've had in Super Rugby in Round 1. Round 2's looking like there's a few more mismatches here. It's probably going to be the opposite of Round 1. I'm going to take a look at the lineup, see what's changed in each team, and make my score prediction. Up first, we've got Chiefs versus Crusaders at FMG Stadium in Hamilton. Chiefs have made a fair few changes here. A lot of it is just promoting a few guys from the bench to the starting lineup. In the back, Simone Narawa and ALB, they move back into starting positions. Rameka Porhippy has come in. In the front row, Tupou Vai, Bradley Slater and Aiden Ross all get promoted to the starting lineup. Bradley Slater, he came off the bench as hooker last week. The lineup seemed to get a little bit dodgy after he came on. Keep an eye on that. Also, we have a new open side flanker making his debut for the Chiefs, Jerome Brown. Keen to see how he goes. A bunch of guys have actually left the 23 altogether. Ollie Norris, Naitoa Akoi, Kalen Boshia and Daniel Rona, they are all gone. Not sure what the story is there. Ateni Nanai Saturo, he's actually had an injury. And Damien McKenzie is staying at 15 like he was for the Blues game last week. Probably gonna see him move to 10 again later in the game. And with the Crusaders, really not a lot has changed here. We're just seeing Kyle Preston, the man getting that triple, coming off the bench for Noah Hotham after an early injury. He locks in his start and Mitch Drummond comes onto the bench. That consistency, it should help the Crusaders in this matchup, I think, but it's really hard to look past the Chiefs at home coming off that big win against the Blues at Eden Park, the grand final rerun. Have they cracked the code? They might have. Are the Crusaders back? We gotta see more. If they beat the Chiefs in Hamilton this week, the Crusaders, they are well and truly back. But I am going to stick with the Chiefs. The Hurricanes last week, they were a little bit undercooked. Chiefs will definitely be a sterner opposition, so I'm picking the Chiefs by about 10 points. Next up is Reds versus Moana Pacifica at Suncorp in Brisbane. This will be the Reds' first game of the Super Rugby season. They had the bye in round 1. They're not going to be totally undercooked though. They have been in the Northern Hemisphere playing a few show matches. The team they've named is very strong, full strength backline. They'll be fresh, they'll be hungry to get on the board. For Moana Pacifica, they've really just made one change to the team. They got pipped at the post last week by the Force past the 80th minute. And that is that they have brought in Lossi Filippo to their bench. The Wellington Lions player, very hard runner. So not much to note there. The interesting thing that with this game is just going to be seeing how the Reds are in their first match. I think the Reds are going to be really strong this year. Even the new Pacifica, led by the big man Artie Sevilla, I don't think they'll be able to stand with the Reds at Suncorp. One minor thing though, Les Kiss, Reds coach, he has apparently been in talks with Rugby Australia for that coaching job to replace Joe Smith. Might be a little bit of a distraction, but I do not think it'll be a decisive factor for this game. I'm picking the Reds to get a bonus point win by about 17 points. Then on Saturday afternoon, Hurricanes versus the Fijian Drua. In Napier for this one, still a home game for the Hurricanes. Not a lot has changed here. The Hurricanes, they've lost Wakalia Wiri, he is now injured. Hugo Plummer has come off the bench to replace him. Otherwise, everything else is still the same. Tossi's still on the bench, Larkai's still on the bench, just like last week. For the Drua, there's some big losses here. Akanaveri, he is gone from the 23. Yosefo Masi, he's been dropped to the bench. Caleb Muntz, he's been dropped to the bench. The Drua, honestly, they do not travel well at all. Playing the Hurricanes at home, even only at Napier, I expect the Hurricanes to give them a real drubbing. with the Drua, all you really need to do is you need to stay patient. They will feed you the mistakes. They will feed you the penalties. They're the most penalized team in the competition, or rather they were last year. You just gotta avoid getting caught up in their throw it about game, their loose game. If you get caught up in that, it can work better for them than it can work better for you. But if you can keep everything under control, you can cruise to victory against these guys. I'm picking Hurricanes again by about 15 points. Then on Saturday night, we have the Highlanders versus the Blues undercover at Forsyth Bar in Dunedin. A few changes here for both teams. Sam Gilbert moves to the right wing, making room for Finn Hurley at fullback. Apparently Jamie Joseph did want to start this guy at fullback last week, but he had a little niggle. Big thing to note here for the Highlanders is that they have gone for the 6-2 split on the bench, obviously expecting that Blues pack to come and be physical like they always are. Highlanders have made a couple promotions from last week's bench to this week's starting lineup. That includes Vivini Lasanga, the flanker, and also Falau Fakatava at halfback. For the Blues, the big change is that they have brought back big number 8, last year's player of the year, Hoskins Satutu. Is he going to be able to carry on last year's form after that big snub from Big Scotty Robertson? He's forced Cameron Suapoa to move to the blind side. Other than that, Finley Christie, he's been promoted from the bench last week to a start this week. And interestingly, Blues have a new hooker on the bench, James Mullen. Apparently this guy is from the Crusaders. He never made an appearance for them though, and he's going to be coming off the bench for the Blues this game, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Everything else looking the same for the Blues though. I do think the Highlanders are on the up this year and they are playing at home, but that Blues pack, I mean, Vern Cotter would have whipped the shit out of them after getting beat up front last week by the Chiefs. Like, Vern Cotter, he cannot allow that to stand. This is what his entire game plan revolves around, dominating up front. This is what his season revolves around. He would have been whipping those Blues forwards this week, and they will come out against the Highlanders firing on another level. I don't think the Highlanders will be able to stick with the Blues up front, so I'm going to pick the Blues by 12 points. Now, lastly, we have Brumbies versus the Force at GIO in Canberra, and the big news here is that the Brumbies, they're bringing back their big guns. They did not take their full strength team to Fiji to face the Drua, but now we're seeing those guys come back. James Slipper, Alan Alatoa, Tom Wright, Nick Frost, Lenny Kitau, they are all joining this game. Charlie Cow's also back. He was injured, but now he has recovered. Brumbies, they did look a bit shaky in that Drua game, but with all these big names returning back to full strength, I think they'll be too much for the Force. The Force are nuggety, but I don't think they'll be able to hang. I'm going to pick the Brumbies by 10 points. Anyway guys, hopefully there will be a few surprises in this week's games. Either way, I'm really looking forward to that first up matchup, the Chiefs and the Crusaders. After this video, I will be putting up another one with my fantasy picks, going over my team, but also covering any other players who I think might be picks worth considering. So if you're playing fantasy, tune in for that one, and I'll see you there.